that's a small place here at the Perky Nerd.
This is I am such a fan of the Perky Nerd. I feel like I'm one of the original, one of your original supporters.
Yes, you are.
I'm a Burbank native, so.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Nice.
Well, I mean, I wasn't born here, but I live here now, so.
Right, because you're from Michigan.
Yes, I am from Michigan, exactly.
Yeah.
But I've lived here for years.
Yes. So the first time we opened the shop, well, it was only one time. We opened up the shop, and I think it was the first week you walked in, and I was having a little meeting with my friend, and you just walked in, and that's when it all began.
Yes. Well, you had contacted me on
Twitter.
Twitter, yeah.
Yeah.
And I love stores like this, and so when I found out you were local, it was like I have to support.
Yeah,
and,
you have to.
No, and this is one of the best. But it's true, and this is one of the greatest stores. I just really admire what you do with this. So thank you for having this in the community. That's such a great meeting place for everybody.
Yeah. So that is what I intended when I opened, was to have a safe nerd community. And then also have a safe place for women, and a place that they could feel confident expressing their nerdiness, and also just, can I explore some new nerdiness? I've never been into this, and not feel like they were going to be like, oh, you don't know all of the comics, you know?
That's right, yeah.
So
what?
Yeah, so that's what our specialty is at the Perky Nerd, is welcoming newbies, and then also oldbies can come in here and also feel just as comfortable, and also educate us newbies.
Well, I admire that, because geekdom becomes a very closed shop. That's only happened kind of lately, I feel, or I mean the last number of years, because I've been going to ComicCon for like over 20 years, and it was a much more kind of, it was all about comics, first of all. There was no movies there. If there were movies, they were always the worst movies ever. There are always those, what are those kind of like weird erotic vampire girl movies? And they would always be selling tapes of those, and they have these, these ladies there, and it was always very strange to me. But that was like the level of movies you used to get at Comic-Con. And then I just remember, maybe 10 years ago or something, suddenly, things started showing up, and then it just really got taken over.
Those Ghostbusters, I love them. My brother had all the stuff. I say my brother because, I mean, he got all the stuff. He's a boy, and not to bring it into that, but like, I mean, he had his own proton pack. He had the Ecto-1. He had all of the action figures, which is why I think it's so great that, like, now, I mean, look, right here in the front row, we have...
And you are awesome, by the way.
We have a Ghostbuster princess, right? This is your... Yeah. And that is cool. That should be a thing. I loved cosplay, so... And I like to do mashups. I appreciate mashups and making your own thing. So, but I feel like these characters, especially Holtzman in particular, like gives people that feeling that they can do whatever they want. I have a question.
Yes. How convenient.
When she licked that equipment, was that in the script, or was that just her?
That's Kate McKinnon. That's total Kate McKinnon.
And that's like in the trailers. That's like her signature thing now. Like you see her. Lick that.
But that's like one of those things when you're filming. We did a bunch of takes, and then the last one, she'll always pull out some. Every take she pulls out something crazy. But that one, she did it. I remember just the minute she did it, I go like, oh my god, that's so in the movie. That's so on everything. Because it was just this. And that gun, licking that gun was not a healthy thing to do.
Who knows where that gun has been?
Yeah, I know. It's all. It's funny. That's the non-glamour of sort of movie props, is that they are kind of made just to sort of like get through the movie. So a lot of times they're sprayed with paint that's not necessarily great and all that. So that I just want you to appreciate what commitment Kate McKinnon had in licking that gun. Everything was fun about making this movie, but that was the developing what props we were going to do, what weapons and all that, because we had this amazing team of designers. And I'm desperate to do, I tweeted this the other day, but like the Art of Ghostbusters book.
Oh, I saw that.
Because we have so much stuff.
Yeah.
And
she was on Twitter. She's all about it. She'll help you out.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Let's talk. Yeah, exactly. Nice to talk to my publisher and stuff and get that. Because, I don't know if you do a deep dive, Tully, this guy Tully, who's one of our visual artists, he released onto some website, I retweeted it, or maybe I'll retweet it. Check my Twitter later today. I'll retweet it, but he put up a lot of concept art of like, we had this one thing in the movie that got cut out about this really scary ghost, clown ghost that comes out of the portal and almost grabs Leslie Jones before he gets sucked back in. And we just wanted to make him really terrifying. And Tully's designs are so terrifying that it's extremely disturbing. It was but it's fun. I mean, you get a group of insane artists together, and some are just gadget people, and some are weapons people, and some are creature people, and and they're just in this back room just cranking stuff out constantly.
Oh, wow.
So we had all these things, some stuff that scared the hell out of the studio.
Oh, really?
Oh my God, we had
too demonic or something?
Well, it was one thing in particular that freaked out the head of the studio, because they just come up with all these things, and we wanted to have this Times Square filled with ghosts from all that they were going to fight, and so they were pulling out everything from the 1900s to 1920s, all across the spectrum of the history of New York. And he had done we had the flasher we were going to do, which the flasher's kind of in it all still, but his artwork was like, he's opening up and it's literally like these bones, but then there's this giant demonic tongue where his tongue, his junk would be.
Oh.
And it's like literally they clamped down on us like they thought we were just going to go bananas and like put in the most R-rated stuff you've ever seen. And so, no, it's just concept art. We're not going to do that. But so one day I'd like to get that all out just so you can see the demented minds that worked on this movie.
I think people will be interested in that. So working with the ladies, specifically, you worked with Melissa McCarthy at least four times now. Spy, Heat, Bridesmaids, amazing, and Ghostbusters. So is that just like, do you have characters in mind?
No,
and then you just know, or do you plan for her to be in it, or? Melissa
and I never plan on making a movie together every time we do it. Bridesmaids, she was one of the last people we cast because we couldn't. We were having a hard time casting that role. At the very last minute, Kristen and Annie Mumolo said, "Oh, you got to see our friend from the Groundlings. She's amazing." And then she came in and was like, "Oh my God, she's great." Then The Heat was sent to me. Katie Dippold wrote it, and it got sent to me with Sandra Bullock wanted to do it. And I was thinking about possibly somebody else for that role. And so I was reading, and I was on a plane and just laughing so much. And it was like 20 pages in when I suddenly like, wait a minute, Melissa would kill in this role. Sent it to her, and she wanted to do that. Then Spy, I wrote that for somebody else because I wanted to make it in the fall, and Melissa was on Mike and Molly, and so I didn't think she'd be available. So I wrote it for this other actress who then turned it down. And then I went to a bunch of other people for it first, and then Melissa was at my house and said, "What are you going to make? What are you making next?" I said, "I got this great spy script. I wish you were available to do it." And she's like, "Well, let me read it." And called me the next day. She's like, "I got to do this." And then Ghostbusters were the same thing. We just developed that, as a script, and just wanted to write it just to come up with these unique characters, and then she kind of, lobbied me to, she was like, "Hey, if you, want me to be a Ghostbuster," and I was like, "Oh, let's see," because I just wanted to match them up, and then it's immediately going, "How can I not have Melissa in this?"
Right.
And so it happened again, but it's funny because I think people always think we're like, what's next, but it just. I'm so much about like who's going to be great in the role, but just she's so talented, she's great in every role she takes on.
Yeah, cool. And then Kristen Wiig, she was in Bridesmaids, and then she came back for Ghostbusters.
Yeah, and she was actually the last of the four that I cast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the first person I knew I wanted was Kate. Because I'm such a fan of Kate's.
Yes.
And then I was watching SNL, and I'd never seen Leslie Jones before. And she popped up on Weekend Update. I remember just telling my wife, like, who is that? Who is that? She's so funny. And by the end of the thing, I said, she's a Ghostbuster. I don't care if she can act. I don't care what. She's a Ghostbuster. And so I went, and when I was in New York, I just had drinks with her. And it was she had just come from finding out she was going to be a regular in SNL when she came to meet me for drinks. Yeah, and then we had this amazing, like, kind of 2.5 hour meeting where we just had so much fun. And then, I never even auditioned her. I just offered her the role. Yeah, and then so then we had Melissa and she and Kate, and then I was like, who should be the fourth? Who should be the fourth? And I just started missing Kristen because we hadn't worked together, in a couple movies. And she had reached out to me just like, hey, if there's any little part, I'd love to. And I was like, wait, let's make her a Ghostbuster.
Kristen Wiig does that? She's like, if there's a small part.
Every once in a while. Every once once in a while.
She's Kristen Wiig.
I know. Exactly. I know. I feel honored that we had her in it.
I love her.
Yeah.
Who do you love, new and old, on SNL? Like,
I mean, I think the cast right now is so great. I mean, Cecily Strong, obviously, she was had a part in Ghostbusters. I love her. I love A.D. Bryant. Well, Vanessa's gone now from the show, but she's awesome.
Yeah.
I just think across the board they have such a strong showing of people right now. And I obviously I love the funny ladies, but there's great that Chris Redd, I think he's hilarious. He's one of the the new guys, and he's great. No, it's funny. Like, people always accuse me of just like rating SNL for my cast, but it's like, you know what it is? I mean, one of my best friends runs the show with Lauren, Steve Higgins, who's on the sidekick on Fallon, and they're just so good at finding the funniest people because they scour the country. I mean, they go to the Groundlings, they go to Second City, they go all over the place. So what you're seeing on there is a distillation of sort of the best. A lot of the best people currently working.
Right.
When we were casting our little scene, Yahoo screen show, Other Space. Has anyone ever seen Other Space? Oh, thank you. God bless you. Thank you. I'm so proud of that show. And it got nothing. It was Yahoo decided they want to put money into 3 TV, series. And they gave us, we had a real budget, and we made 8 episodes of this thing that I love. It's one of my favorite things we've ever done. But they only kind of advertised it through Yahoo, and so nobody kind of knew it existed. It was us and Community, and then a thing called Sin City Saints, which is this basketball show. But and nobody knew it was there, and so it just went away. But I'm constantly proselytizing that. Go to shareotherspace.com. All 8 episodes are up. They're free. Pass them around. That's where I met Neil Casey, who played who played our bad guy in Ghostbusters. Played Rowan.
Yeah.
And he's just brilliant. But anyway.
I mean, speaking from like an actor's point of view, you were doing all this acting stuff, and then you just kind of got your ass kicked into creating your own stuff, and kind of that's when you started doing more directing and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a blessing in disguise, right?
It's honestly, I think about this all the time. It's literally the best thing that ever happened to me, because I was a character actor, and so I'd been a regular on 5 different TV series that all got canceled in the first season, you make your money when you're working, and then then you make no money for a year, and then you get a job, and it goes back and forth.
Yeah.
You know how that goes. So finally I was on this show, and it's a hit, and like, oh, thank God, I'm taken care of for 7 years, which is it's kind of the greatest thing ever. They're just going to dress you, they're going to tell you what to say, they're going to, and you have to obviously, be talented to pull it off. Not that I was, but actors in general have to be talented. And then, we got to the end of that first season, and I took all my money that I'd made on the show and sunk it into this independent film that I wrote and directed and starred in that has never seen the light of day. Someday it will. And so there I am in the editing room, editing, all my money gone, and they call and go, hey, we got bad news. We're not going to bring you back on the show. And so it just kind of went into this year of nothing, because I'd lost all our money. And on this movie, I couldn't get into film festivals. Nobody wanted to buy it. Yeah, and it was only at the end of that year that I kind of wrote on a whim. I always write. I'm always writing something, and wrote the spec script for Freaks, and then it got picked up. So
how
but
did you
it
get
was
that?
great.
Did you know Judd Apatow before? Or
We're old friends. We were stand-ups together.
Oh, from stand-up.
Yeah, we knew each other. I've known him since he was 17 years old, and he had seen my movie and really loved it, and he had just made a deal at DreamWorks to develop TV shows, and he said, if you ever have something you think I'd want to do, and so I didn't take that lightly, so I kind of waited until I had something I thought was great, and my wife was the one that said, oh, this shows Judd would love this script, and so I gave it to him, and he got DreamWorks to buy it, and then we made it, and it was really a whirlwind kind of career change, which was great. Yeah. But I'd gone to USC Film School to be a director and all that, so I'd always been wanting to get there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
Yeah. So. Yeah,
I mean, wherever it takes you, you never know. It's kind of weird. Hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so then you just started making stuff. I mean, for people who are interested in making their own stuff, and do you have any advice for, like, if people are writing or they have ideas?
Yeah.
go to school? Is that what you're saying?
No, no. I mean, look, if you want to go to school, no, if you can afford to go to school, look, I hate to say this because I'm a proud alumni of the USC Film School, but I don't know if I had to do it over again if I would go to film school because especially now with what you can do. I mean, with your iPhone now, you can shoot a movie that's HD that looks great. Every laptop is bundled with nonlinear editing. You could do it all for nothing. I mean, that movie that I made that bankrupted me after Sabrina cost $35,000. It was literally 4 people in a field in one day, same clothes. That was it. And all that money was for 16 millimeter film and developing and all that. So I mean, and it doesn't. It looks like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's so. Because can I tell you a weird story? So I make this movie, 60 millimeter, and for some reason I had this nostalgia for when I was in film school, and we used to cut on the moviolas, which is you got the tape and the thing, so it's old time and the magnetic strips with the sound. It's a disaster. There's a reason why old movies feel really slow because when you did it that way, you couldn't keep fine-tuning really. So I decided, I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna get a moviola and do this. So I had a work print made, and I didn't telecine the negative of the movie. I telecined the work print for some reason, which made it look like 70s porn or something. I mean, like the grain is like gigantic, so it doesn't look like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's nuts. And then when I realized that was crazy, so then I had everything transferred, the work print transferred. We edited it on a Lightworks. If anybody was in the editing business, that's an old defunct thing that Avid took over, or beat out, and we cut it. And so then I had this negative that had to be conformed. And so had bumped up this guy. I was bumping up all these people to do like a job that they hadn't done before. Like my cinematographer was a guy, he was a colorist, but he hadn't been a cinematographer. So it worked great. Everybody was great. And then at the very end, I'm like, well, I'm going to bump up this guy who wants to be a negative cutter who works at Christie's Editorial, which is, I think, long gone now. And so he did it all. He screwed up the negative. And so all I have now is the telecined work print. So I don't know what to do with this movie because it looks terrible. Yeah. But it's a little time capsule. So and Penn Jillette's one of the stars of it. So there you go. Yes. I don't know why I told that story.
But you do still act in some of your films.
Yeah.
Right?
I walked into a wall in Spy. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite directors besides you, Garry Marshall, rest in peace. Oh, but he would always pop up and do little cameos and stuff.
Well, I mean, Lost in America is the greatest director cameo ever because it's the funniest scene ever. Garry. I was lucky enough. I knew Garry. He was actually one of the.
Did you ever get to meet him?
Oh yeah, he was actually one of the guys that kind of helped me get into movies because.
What?
Yes, I was in film school and I was working an internship during the summer for Michael Phillips, who he produced the Sting and Taxi Driver with Julia Phillips, his ex-wife, and. He was producing the thing called The Flamingo Kid, which Garry Marshall had directed. And so Garry said, hey, he met me and knew I wanted to be a filmmaker. He's like, come on to the sound mix. So I hung on to the sound mix of that for days and days. And Garry was the nicest guy in the world. He would just bring you into the process and help you through it. And I was lucky enough to kind of stay, I ran into him all because he was a Toluca Lake guy, which is where I live. And
his
so
theater.
Yeah, exactly.
They renamed it. It looks great.
I know, it does look great.
Yeah.
So that was cool. But there you go.
That's super cool. Now I'm like, you got to talk to. It's such a shame when you have this dream to meet someone. I mean, now I really regret it being at Bob's Big Boy one year. Mm-hmm. I had just moved out here from Arizona, and I was sitting. They got the windows. And I looked out, and it was the Falcon Theater, and I was like, oh, my God, it's Garry Marshall. Oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God. And I didn't go out, and I would, wish, and that would have maybe been a I mean, I'm sure you have people you fan over. But I was just I should have gone. I mean.
You should have, too, because he would have been so happy to greet you. he was just a nice guy.
Yeah, right. And you get to work with so many great women. And do you purposely go out and seek them, like to do women stuff, which is great. And I wish that more people would do that, like do women casts and.
Yeah, I just love working with talented women. It's so fun. I mean, because of Ghostbusters, there was so many people, SJW, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I just like funny women. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I know so many funny women, and I can't find enough roles for all of them. And so it's like, Ghostbusters, perfect. Here's a chance to put 4 funny women in this movie. And that was the extent of it. That was the extent of the politics, other than, look, sure, I like to see women have better roles on the screen. But it was really just, it kills me that there's not more. I can't find a bigger, sort of property that houses more women. I mean, there's the one I'm writing right now that has a lot more roles, just so I can have this whole kind of team of women, just so I can get all these people working.
Is it a comedy?
Yes, it's an action comedy. I love action and I love comedy, so like to bring them together. Yeah, this is a.
I mean, Spy 2. There's gonna be a Heat 2, right? Or
no,
there's
not.
not.
No, there's not.
Hey, IMDb.
I want one.
IMDb's
IMDb is the biggest liar in the world. I know. No, there's a script. There's a script for. How excited I get. There's a script for The Heat 2 that's hilarious that Katie Dippold wrote that's so funny. It's the darkest, funniest comedy. It's like Silence of the Lambs is a comedy.
Oh.
With the two of them trying to catch the Red Falls killer who she falsely accused.
Oh.
And it's fantastic, but Sandra didn't want to do another one, so that was the bummer. And then Spy 2, we're all ready to do one, but Fox doesn't want to do it. So I mean, I will say it's fun to just do original new things each time, which is great. I mean, obviously Ghostbusters is not original, but it was we made it as original as we could just by rebooting it, which I know is controversial, and I apologize if some people are not happy that we did that. But for me, it'd been so long since the other ones, and I love origin stories. And I didn't want a situation where they go, oh, here's all this old gear, and there was an old ghost attack, and here's your new stuff. I wanted to see them kind of how they sort of, formed in a world that doesn't have ghosts. And, so, look, it can be debated till the end of time if that was a good idea or not. I don't know. All I know is that was the only way that I kind of thought it would be fun to do it, and Katie really loved that too. And, but that's why we put so many references to the old one, just because we wanted to, we loved the old one so much that we wanted to, pay tribute to that. And, again, look, the jury's out of whether we did the right thing or not. All I know is, and I posted this on Twitter, we won the Kids' Choice Award for Best Movie. Thank you. Yeah. Over Rogue One and Captain America: Civil War, which are such awesome movies, and just you're like, oh, good, and you're like, kid, after getting yelled at by by middle-aged dudes for 3 years, it's like, oh, that's right, kids can enjoy this movie, which is a nice thing.
I'm bringing it back to the Perky nerd, and I'm more of a new nerd. I mean, I was a nerd in high school, but I wasn't a comic book nerd. I was a different kind of nerd. But so it's like the Marvel movies, I think, is what Iron Man. It's like that's what set it off. It became mainstream. More people, like Target has stuff. Like it's just everywhere. Yeah. It's not just on Saturday morning cartoons. It's like everywhere. Everyone is a fan now, no matter what your age. So I think that's like kind of funny because people that grew up with it are now up here, and it's kind of like they hold that dear. But I don't think it diminishes your childhood at all that the new one got made. But I think that that's very nostalgic. But you also have to remember that there's a new generation that I feel like. And I don't know, this is just my perception. I'm in a comic book shop all the time, so everyone seems like a nerd to me now. But it does seem like everyone is a nerd. You're going to talk to your grandma or, your sister's friend or whatever, and they're going to know what a Funko Pop is most of the time. They're going to know, all this stuff is so mainstream. So I think that's why there was such, kind of a...
Well, I mean,
backlash type thing. Cause
here's kind of my theory on it. Because I'm 55 years old. I'm an old geek, and I remember, look, I was in film school. Like I joined the Saturn Society, and they would come to, every weekend at Norris Theater, and they'd show sci-fi movies. All of us sci-fi nerds, and we're all, everybody was so it was positive. And it's only been like the last, I feel like 10 years that a section of geekdom has gotten very mean. And what I think it is that we all had our group, and we had all this cool stuff, but because there was no internet, people didn't know what we were into. So they're just like, oh, that's all nerdy, dumb stuff that you're into, sci-fi, it's all blah, blah, blah. But then as they started getting exposed to it, it's like, oh, that stuff's really cool.
Yeah.
But they almost came in, it's almost like, to be divisive this way, but it was like the jocks came in and they're like, oh, so they kind of brought this like, that's my team, I love that stuff, and so I feel like there's the majority of us geeks are kind of going like, whoa, like take it easy, dudes, and they're like, oh, you don't know, and they get very kind of territorial about their stuff, because I've never met in person a fellow geek who's not the nicest person I've ever met.
Yeah.
It's only because they're on the internet and they can kind of fire all this stuff in.
Yeah. And
I just find it's a bummer because that's why we all got into this, because we were all outsiders and we all loved having the support of our fellow outsiders, and it made us this little kind of subculture that was, not having to put up with the rules that everybody else had. And so it really, the big awakening to me was like when Ain't It Cool News first started, and you go, oh, the comment section. It's like, oh my God. I mean, the comment section is just the most, it was so horrendous. And now pretty much everything is that way too.
Yeah.
And look, it's not like geeks are, oh, we're so great. We're so wonderful. We don't have opinions. Sure, we have strong opinions, but it was never sort of like, I hate you. I'm going to tear you down.
So aggressive.
Yeah, it's kind of I find it sad.
I agree with you in that I feel like in the last 10 years it's blown up because of the internet. But also people can hide behind their computers and say whatever they want. Yeah. And also one thing that I've talked to people about, because, we're a new shop. We've been here a year and a half, and people... you can find out about us and be fans of us. We have fans in the UK and stuff, all because of Instagram. Yeah. Like Instagram and Facebook makes everything so the fandoms seem so like that. Whereas before, I feel like when I had my very close group in high school, and I hung out with a bunch of Tiffany's, and that's what we did. And
that's my next movie.
Like seriously, in the Tiffany's, and so you nerd out together, and I was always like, I have my 4 friends, and that's nice, but now everyone is said, oh, you're a fan of that? I love that too. Oh, who watches This Is Us? Like I could talk about This Is Us forever. Do you watch This Is Us?
My wife does.
Okay.
I hope to catch up with it.
Oh my gosh.
I know, it's everybody says it's like great. Somebody said you'll choke cry through the last episode or something. So I was like, no, that sounds like a lot.
Yeah. It's so good. And there's just so much good stuff out there to talk about. Yeah. And the great thing about nerdery is that you can bond over it. And that's what, in high school, that's what people bond over. And so it's a shame that people can go on the internet and poo-poo that and make people feel bad. But that's why, here we have... the groups, we have the clubs, and people can bond with people and not feel scared and
I mean, the internet's the best thing and the worst thing that ever happened to
totally
geekdom.
Is.
I mean, but I think it tips way more into the best thing because it used to be when you just didn't know if you were a weirdo or not. I mean, growing up in Michigan, I was just like, is it me and my next door neighbor? Are we just like these weirdos who are into sci-fi and everybody else doesn't know what we're talking about and we're hiding it? Now you go like, oh no, we're, it empowers you as a geek.
Right. Yes. We can open it up to questions. You had your hand up first.
Yes.
I have a couple. Sorry.
Please.
Is that suit from your new clothing line?
No, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for asking.
I forgot.
No, it's not. No, just because I was gonna, but I thought maybe this is me dressed down. My suits for my thing are a little more. Thank you for yes. If I have a line from J. Crew, which is pretty much sold out, which I'm very excited.
Is it? It is.
Yeah.
Are you gonna make more?
That's up to J. Crew. But there's still stuff available. Thank you.
To branch off on this.
I'll get your next one though.
Yeah, he has another one. But to branch off, were you gonna ask more about J. Crew? Because I wanted to ask how that got started.
It was just I've been wanting to do a line of clothing forever because I'm way into suits and suiting and all that, and then just kind of put the screws to my agents and said, like, see if anybody wants to do it. And they contacted J. Crew, who had a really good thing raising money with Jimmy Fallon with these iPhone cases that had pocket squares on top so you can put them in your to raise money. And so they said, we'll do it with you, to raise money. And so we did these pocket silks for anti-bullying charity, Stomp Out Bullying. That they made money off that, and then they branched it into a bunch of suits and stuff. So,
cool.
So there you go.
Yes,
that's a great question. I love the Times Square fight. I just had so much fun with that because we used real stunt people and put these light suits on them, and then we enhanced them digitally later. But I didn't want my team just fighting a tennis ball, so those are all real people. You see those ghosts fighting and guys on stilts and all that. So that was really fun, and it took us a number of days to do that. I love that opening scene in the library because they have that. I always ask Ivan, like, how did you do that thing where the cards come out? Like, I love in-camera effects. I just think that's one of the coolest things ever. So I love that because I'd never seen a movie like that before, and sitting in the theater opening weekend and just like, what is this? This is a comedy, all my favorite comedy stars, but like this is really scary, and look at these cool effects and all that. So I think that I've never kind of got over that. Here's the thing. Like, when I went to film school back in the early 80s, I'd seen a ton of movies, but, like, it wasn't as ubiquitous of kind of how things are made because of the internet. You didn't, like, know. It was still kind of mysterious. And now it's been demystified. We all kind of know how movies are made, or you can, look at the DVD extras or listen to the commentary track and hear so much. You can really kind of send yourself through film school and then just start making stuff. I mean, again, you can make something for no money whatsoever, and it'll look great, and just experiment. The only thing you just want to do is everything you make sure it's great. Doesn't mean don't make it, but don't put it out there unless it's really, really good. Because I think what happens, a lot of people they make it and then they dump it on the internet. And we look in this business. We look at stuff, and we have a lot of stuff, that we look for filmmakers and stuff. And when you find somebody, it's a big deal, and we notice that. So, just be hard on the stuff that you do, but do a bunch of stuff, and don't be afraid to fail. Like, you have to fail. Look, if you come out of the gate and you do the greatest movie of all time, that's great. I mean, look at Greta Gerwig. She just killed it with Lady Bird. But don't. It's the problem these days. Like, that's why I am so glad after Freaks and Geeks, I did like 10 years of just TV directing. I directed a couple of features that didn't do well in the middle of that. But in that, I was just directing TV, and that was like film school in my 30s and 40s because suddenly I was getting to play in different genres with all these different crews and do this, and I was able to experiment with equipment and all that kind of thing. So, there's nothing like just practical experience in doing it, and these days you can do it. So
I know it comes up a lot. I'm terrified of doing a reunion show because I've never seen one that I've liked. And so that's the only thing that holds me back from it is because I don't want to like back pollute the what we've done. But I always say, like, if it comes and I'm just like, oh, that's the way to do it, I would. One thing I do want to do, I'd love to do a Broadway musical of Freaks and Geeks. That is one of my goals. That I see very clearly. So hopefully that'll happen. There is that thing about the blank page. I'm not afraid of the blank page. What happens though is you've got a million ways that something can go, and sometimes I'll really hyper outline things. So with cards and all that and gather that. But then other times, like Spy, I was like, I know what I want to do, and I know how I want it to end. I'm just going to start writing this and see where it goes, because then I can surprise myself and back myself into corners and do it. And so that poured out of me. But then I tried that recently with a script that I've abandoned at the moment for the last year because it didn't work. It was literally like, I was like, it just wasn't taking the same trajectory. So I think it's better to organize if you can. But what I love is movies are very event driven. And I think the movies we like the most are character driven. And so when you're outlining, sometimes you tend to outline events, but you don't outline the connective emotional tissue that the characters have that can change things. And that's why I love if I kind of know where I'm going and then surprise myself. Then if somebody says something I didn't even expect that character was going to say that comes out of me, it can send the whole thing in a different direction. So it's just that constant, how do you keep that bowling ball in without keep it from going into the gutters, but keep it, excitingly almost going in, but then it goes out and almost, and then you get a strike. Wow, I really took this metaphor to a tortured place, but exactly. But it's just trial and error and just being hard on it and not bailing unless it's just a total disaster. But if you can just type the words "the end," it's the greatest thing in the world. Even if you have a disaster between page 1 and the end, you finish something, and then you've got stuff to play with. So.